All right, let's talk about one of those things every developer hits eventually. How to package up your code and all its bits and pieces so it can actually run on a big distributed system. This is a super important step, and it almost always starts with a problem we've all had.
Ah, yes, the classic line. You've spent hours, maybe days getting your code perfect. It runs flawlessly on your laptop. You feel great. You submit it to the cluster and boom, it just fails. So what gives? Why is there this huge gap between your machine and the cluster?
The answer is actually pretty straightforward. When you send your job to a cluster, it gets broken up and sent to a bunch of different worker machines. You have to think of those workers as a completely clean slate. Sure, they have Spark installed, but they have no idea about that cool third-party library you're using. They don't have it. So the bottom line is, you have to send everything, not just your code, but all those other libraries it depends on, all bundled together.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Let's tackle the JVM world first. We're talking about applications written in Java or Scala.
The go-to solution here is something called an Uber jar, or sometimes you'll hear it called an assembly jar. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's one single, massive jar file that acts like a self-contained backpack for your application. It has your code, of course, but it also has every single library your code needs to run, all packed inside. It's the whole shebang in one file.
That sounds great in theory, right? One file to rule them all. But you can probably imagine that trying to find and pack every single one of those dependencies by hand would be an absolute nightmare. Luckily, you don't have to.
Yeah, you definitely don't do this manually. That's what build tools are for. In the Java and Scala worlds, the two big players are Maven and SBT. Each one has a specific plugin. For Maven, it's the Maven Shade plugin, and for SBT, it's SBT Assembly. You just set it up once in your configuration file, and from then on, the tool does all the heavy lifting for you, creating that perfect, portable jar.
And just to focus on Maven for a second, it's really as simple as adding the Maven Shade plugin to your project's configuration file, the pom.xml. Once you've done that, every time you build your project with the standard mvn package command, it will automatically spit out that beautiful Uber jar, all ready to go.
So, that's how the JVM world handles it, with these nice, self-contained files. But what about all you Python developers out there? The Python ecosystem takes a pretty different approach. It's less about building one giant file beforehand and more about shipping your dependencies alongside your main script.
With Python, you tell Spark which files to ship to the cluster when you submit your job. And you do this right on the command line using a special flag in the Spark-submit script. That flag is -pyfiles. You just give it a list of any extra Python files or even entire libraries packaged up as .egg or .zip files. Spark is smart enough to take those files and make sure they get sent out to every single worker so they're available right when your code needs them.
Okay, so now we know how to package our code for both Java and Python. We're golden, right? Well, not always. There's a much sneakier, much more frustrating problem that can pop up: dependency conflicts.
Exactly. This is a tough one. Imagine your application needs version 2.0 of a library, but the cluster itself already has version 1.0 of that same library installed. When your code runs, which one gets used? This is where you get those really painful errors like a no such method error. Your code tries to call a function that exists in version 2.0, but the cluster loads version 1.0 and that function just isn't there. Ouch!
The solution to this is a really powerful technique called dependency shading. It's a super clever trick. What it does is, during your build process, it actually renames the internal packages of the libraries you're using. So something like com.sum.library gets renamed to something unique, like myapp.shaded.com.sum.library. Your own code is then automatically updated to use this new private name. It basically hides your dependencies inside your application, making it impossible for them to conflict with anything on the cluster. And this really lays out why it's so important. If you don't shade, you're risking those awful no such method error crashes and weird subtle bugs that are impossible to track down. But if you do shade, you get total isolation and predictability. Your code runs in its own little bubble using the exact versions of the libraries you tested with, no matter what's going on in the rest of the cluster.
And to bring it all back around, guess which tool handles this? It's our friend the Maven Shade plugin again. The same tool that builds the Uber jar for you is also the one that can perform this complex shading process. It's an incredibly useful plugin that solves both packaging and conflicts all in one.
Now, all this talk about packaging and shading might sound a little complicated, but this quote really brings it all home.
All this work is purely about the deployment process, getting your code to the cluster. The actual code you write, the Spark API you use, that doesn't change at all. It's the same whether you're on your laptop or on a massive cluster.
So, let's wrap all this up into a quick and easy checklist you can use next time you're getting ready to deploy an application. Here it is, your 4-step plan. First, just know what libraries your code is using. Second, if you're on the JVM, set up your build tool to make an Uber jar. Third, for Python, remember to ship your extra files using that --py files flag. And finally, number 4, if you ever run into those weird version conflicts, remember that shading is your secret weapon to fix it.
So if you follow those steps, you can get your application packaged up and running reliably on the cluster. That's a huge win. But that just leads to the next big question, doesn't it? Your application is running correctly, but is it running efficiently? Is it optimized for performance? Now that's a whole other can of worms and maybe a topic for another time.
Hey, if this helps clear things up for you, do us a favor and hit that like button. And subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks so much for watching.